Thanks for coming. Can you hear me? Is that good, right? So yeah, all of y'all aspiring writers, submit to LitCamp. You know, I didn't think my piece was good enough to get in, and it got me in, and it led to this beautiful thing, so, you know, let's do it. So yeah, this piece is a true story that I wrote, and it got me into LitCamp, and then it came out in creative nonfiction last issue, the issue before last, called Southern Sin. So check it out. It's got a lot of great stories about sin, and this story's about my favorite sin of lust. And unfortunately, I can't read the whole piece because I want y'all to be able to hear all these great writers. So I'm going to read you a little bit from the beginning and then the middle. And if you want to read more, check out Creative Nonfiction. It's also a great place for y'all to submit if you write true stories. So I wrote this right before Katrina hit, and it's about the last jazz fest before the storm. And fortunately, New Orleans is still this kind of place. And it's called the On-Ramp. She is honeysuckle dripping with milky juice. She's magnolia sweet air and hot crawfish boiled in backyards in 100% humidity. She seeps into my skin, my hair, my molecules, until I am hot and wet with sweat, which doesn't ever evaporate. And I don't mind, because this is the most alive I've felt since the last time I was here. She doesn't have to be the place you were born to seduce you this way. She can be the place where you feel at home, even if you're a Yankee. You're going to succumb in the end, and she knows it, with the certainty of a voodoo queen. It may be the music, or the food, or the fog settling in on the French Quarter, as if the Mississippi River has finally come to claim her gas lamps and wrought iron and all those French doors shuttered to the night. New Orleans is many things, but if all those things were simmered down to an essence, clarified like butter, what remained would be pure aphrodisiac. The exact origin of the seduction has always been a mystery. She works on me slowly from my first steps out of the airport gate, every time. In the spring of 2005, as I deplaned in New Orleans and slowed my feet to a stroll, I looked to my left and noticed a tall, good-looking man in his late 20s, with long red hair and a lanky gait. He started chatting me up on the way to baggage claim. We were both home for the Jazz Fest, and the flirtation went down easy, like the cold, wet bodies of oysters sliding down my throat. The redhead introduced himself. I'm Andrew Babylon, and reached his large freckled hand toward me. I laughed as I took his hand. I'd just set foot in this town, and already it had begun. Is it that I look better here? Do I sway my hips further from this side to that side? Am I just sexier in this city of sin, the city the care forgot, the big easy? Yes, and yes. But it's not just me. Everyone is sexier in New Orleans. In the Bay Area where I live, my dates are few and usually disappoint by dessert. Strangers won't speak to me even when I smile and say good morning. It took 3 years and an earthquake before my neighbor would return my smile. I blame the cold of the Pacific, the bundling up against the dam, turning us inward. In New Orleans, we are all soft-shelled. We are moist and open. Maybe it's the heat. By the time I reached Babylon, it had been 5 months since my last visit home, and I was starving for someone to let me know I was a woman and had some powers left, and that being single and fairly young and alive was a good thing. Oh yeah. New Orleans began to feed me 5 minutes after I landed at the airport. And it was like this each time. If there was no red-haired Babylon, it'd be a middle-aged airport porter with a paunch asking, "Honey, you need a cab?" Or the clerk at the rental car place drawling, "All right now, baby, you want insurance with your car?" As I smiled at Babylon, I found I was sliding down the inevitable slope, and there was no use fighting. So then some days pass, and the festival happens, and there's some lusty affair, and I don't have time to read that, but there's more lust. That evening, as the sun set on the fairgrounds, we ran into our old friend LeClaire, who told us where to go next. At the corner of Esplanade and Moss, on Bayou St. John, a Shell station hosts the annual after-party. The Shell Fest, LeClaire said, is for the drunks who don't want to go home. I conveniently fit into both categories. He went on. The beauty of it is that people are doing so many illegal things all at once. Now, it's common for New Orleanians to find excess and a disregard for the law attractive. It's also common for them to hold in high regard activities that are just plain stupid and dangerous, if not technically illegal. Like smoking by the gas pump or doing a limbo in an impossibly short skirt. According to LeClaire, these were some hallmarks of the Shell Fest. So we strolled toward the bayou, not fully believing a party at a gas station could be a good time. As we arrived, some SUVs were leaving what had been a parking lot, revealing a cement dance floor. The Shell girls, good-looking blondes in their 50s, danced to disco music and called me baby as I bought my Bud Light, which I wouldn't ever drink in California. But here at the gas station, cold beer was good beer. My sister and I joined the others on the cement dance floor, grooving to Sister Sledge's We Are Family. And I noticed a white man in his mid-20s dancing like a black man born right here. He was shorter than me by a good 3 inches and younger by about 10 years. He had blonde hair and wire-rimmed glasses, looking real intellectual on top. But below, he was all muscle, not too stocky, not too lean. He was just right. I smiled and looked away, having remembered how to flirt. And soon I got too hot. With all that sunshine and sticky air, I was layered with sunscreen, jazz vest, dirt, and sweat. So when the DJ announced have a cold shower at the Shell Fest, I danced over toward the barbecue grills, to where an upturned water hose pumped a powerful spray of water into the air. It came down cold and clear, and I plunged straight into its thundering circumference in my cotton sundress, squealing, raising my face to its goodness. I make up be damned. Then the man with so much soul appeared outside the shower and held out his hand toward me. Yes, was all I could say. It was all I had been saying for 2 days. I grabbed his hand and he spun me in and out of the spray. The man turned out to be a salsa dancing fool on top of all his funk prowess and general good rhythm. And he spun me to bliss and back. Our hips pressed right up against each other, and then, with a snap of his wrist, he spun me out and back under the shower. In the spinning wet blur, I saw that the crowd on the dance floor had turned our way, and bright flashes of light came from the cameras of people in lawn chairs, perched on the flatbeds of their trucks, parked on the perimeter. Breathless, at the end of the song, we joined Juju and LeClaire and his friends, and I twisted the ends of my dress to wring out the water. And everyone laughed, and LeClaire said, "You are the Shell girl." Somehow, this was a high compliment. The man introduced himself as Dave from Brooklyn, and he couldn't explain how he got so much soul. He said goodbye and left with his friends, and the rest of us stayed and danced until the crowd thinned. At the grills, they were selling Shell burgers, and the DJ said that all the proceeds from the burgers were going to the poor orphans at Shell Beach, because political correctness just never caught on in the South. The price went down to $1, and I bought 2. The smarmy, unshaven men flipping burgers looked at me knowingly through half-closed eyes and said real slowly, "We loved watching you dance, baby. You want cheese on that?" "Yeah." "We loved watching you dance." They said it like they'd seen me make love. I wondered if I should be ashamed, but I laughed as I put the onions on the bun, thinking I hadn't done anything I wouldn't do on the salsa dance floor in Berkeley. It was the shower that made the people gather and take photos. Showers are usually something reserved for a small naked moment in your house. But sensuality isn't reserved for the private spaces here. It's out on the street. It's the thrill of the honeysuckle scent, the burst of a mango freeze on your tongue. It's everyday life with all its fragrance and flavor. So I didn't mind that these men had watched me succumb to the pleasures of the shell shower, any more than if they'd watched me do something as natural as exhale. Thanks.